A reminder, welcome to the community members that have joined us. Just a reminder for submitters that there is 10 minutes speaking time. There will be one bell at 8 minutes and two bells at 10 minutes, and the 10 minutes does include questions as well. So first up, I'd like to welcome Willow Noom from the Napier Youth Council.
Hello, I'm Willow and this is Marjolaine, and as Kirsten said, we're from the Napier Youth Council. So we'll just start straight away. We suggested as an add-on to the curbside rubbish collection commencing on October 1st, to further help the rubbish issue in Napier, it would be great to see recycling, plastic and compost bins, basically multi-purpose recycling bins, in replace of the public ones in town. An example of this are the ones at EIT. However, these are quite large. It is possible to get smaller bins with 4 compartments. Although this won't cure the littering problem that Napier endures, it will seriously encourage appropriate rubbish usage and promote recycling. Perhaps we could put laminated short environmental messages on each bin, plus make it clear what goes in each bin.
We would like to propose that the current youth grants of $3,400 be increased to $10,000. This is due to the high demand of grants we give out. We have small grants, e.g. $100 currently, to a small number of people. We are planning to increase advertising and want to award higher grants to more people this year. This would make a greater impact on the young people of Napier. With extra funds, we can create categories such as sports, arts and music, to name a few. We're also planning to have a larger award for the most promising applicant with a prize of $500 to $1,000. This would not be possible with our current funding. We believe that $10,000 is the perfect amount for youth awards. We must recognise and commend the youth of Napier for their achievements and their future.
We want to have more of a say in decisions affecting us, and the Youth Council believes that more interaction with the Council would help. We think that the timing of the current Council meetings makes it hard for us to participate. How can we get more involved?
In other places of Napier, we often see much more community-based events that young people are interested in. It would be great to see more events that we could help organise for the young people to attend. It would be awesome to utilise the Sound Shell, for example, and other key places in Napier. We have such a beautiful city, but a lack of events and things to do.
Great. So does anyone have any questions?
Councillor Crystal. What do you give out the grants for? What do people apply for to get the money? What is it used for?
Mainly to help with their futures. For example, a few people in past years have applied to pursue music or to go on events like Outward Bound or the Spirit of Adventure. And this year we'd want to have more things like how we just mentioned sport, music and art. We'd have bigger categories for more people to apply.
It's quite a shame really, because we have a lot of people who wish to apply, but we don't have the resources to give that out what they deserve.
Yes, and
continue.
If we had more money, it would be great to see people apply to help with things like university and perhaps things like EIT to really help them get started on their journey with life. So it'd be really awesome to help people with that, not just give it out for small things and give out only $100.
And how do you make a decision about who gets the money then?
So our entire council meet together and we don't know who applied it, so we have no bias, and we all get together and we decide who gets the money.
Okay. For you, Madam?
Deputy Brosnan.
Hi guys, thank you for your submission. I want to pick up on the suggestion you've made around putting recycling or multi-waste bins in our public spaces, and you may be aware that rubbish bins in public spaces is something we get the most requests for. What I'm interested in is we were recently challenged that the move of rubbish bins in public places in the future maybe to not provide them at all, to encourage people to take their waste away with them and to, for instance, reduce, so not create waste in the first instance. interested in your view on that and whether you see this as a stepping stone to potentially getting to that, or whether you have a different view on what the future of waste in public spaces looks like.
I think that'd be an awesome idea. However, I think to start with, it'll be great to have some multi-purpose recycling bins just to get people a lot more educated about the environment and how when they litter, how big of an impact it has. I think initially, taking the rubbish bins out straight away, that would just increase litter. However, after a while, once people realise, I think that will be a good idea. However, I think there needs to be a few steps taken first before we remove, or before, if you guys do, remove the public rubbish bins.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having
Willa
us.
and
Thank you
Marjolaine.
for your time.
Well done, guys. Awesome.
And next, I would invite Pauline Doyle, representing Guardians of the Aquifer.
Where's the truancy officer?
Probably get NCA credits for this. Study period. Lunch. Don't get locked in.
Right, let's start. This is Dirk Hasselhoff and Esperanza Alvarez. Can you hear me clearly at the back? We want to start by thanking you for organising for the three of us to meet with the four consultants from Paddle Delamore on the 9th of July. But unfortunately, we have to say we were not very impressed. You've asked them to investigate what would be involved for Napier City Council to go chlorine-free. Well, on the 9th of July, they told us Napier has had transgressions and Napier needs to replace ageing reservoirs. But the fact is, the very minor transgression in the Enfield Road Reservoir in 2017 was based on one flawed positive E. coli result. And it was a flawed testing regime that came up with that. But since that event, under the leadership of former CEO Wayne Jack, the council has constantly used one flawed test result to justify the permanent chlorination of our water. The reality is the so-called positive result measured just above 0. It was 1.1 unit of coliform per 100 millilitres of water. In other words, it was on the edge of detection, according to your water manager, John Kingsford. And there was no proof of any contamination, according to John Kingsford. The tests taken over the following 10 days all produced negative results. If it was so serious, the council would have introduced a boil water notice, but they didn't. They just put chlorine in the whole network. That scared the hell out of the population in Napier. They never set the record straight, and this is the point. They just kept talking about E. coli transgressions and making it sound like Napier's water infrastructure was falling apart. Of course, the rumour has spread. And now your consultants have devised an expensive, lengthy program of work based on the same assumption, it appears to us. On the 9th of July, they handed out, Tony Urquhart, the lead consultant, handed out this chart, and I understand he showed it to you councillors at the meeting he had before us. This chart outlines 11 models which they looked at, and Tony told us that they had narrowed it down to 4. But only one of those 4 models actually is chlorine-free, and that's option 7. But Tony said that Napier consumers would face prohibitive costs if the council were to follow option 7. What evidence do they have for that? that conclusion was made only 1 month into their investigations. Is their conclusion based on full understanding of our unique aquifer with its biologically stable water? Except in rare emergencies, you know that from my written submission that the Netherlands have never chlorinated their biologically stable groundwater. Do Petal Delamore understand that? This is not the time to rush into building a new reservoir when there's no clear evidence that we need to do so. This is not the time to rush into expensive treatment plants when we don't need to. John Kingsford has told me in response to an Official Information Act request that Napier's 7 operational bores all have secure bore status, and he's confirmed that the bores do not need any UV treatment. So why do we keep hearing that we need treatment plants? Let's look at the issue of disinfection byproducts. At the back of the handout that I've given you, you'll see that there's a photo. The photo on page 5 is of a man named David. He made a submission 3 years ago in 2018. It shows terrible skin rashes that he had developed after the chlorine went in 2017, and his dermatologist couldn't explain the cause of his skin rash until David installed expensive whole house water filter system, and his rashes disappeared. This is our main concern, the harm caused by toxic disinfection byproducts, DBPs. Peter Hillis is Petal Delamore's chemistry expert. That's number 2 on my handout that I've given to you. He maintains that even with chlorination system that Napier currently has, you won't have a DBP problem, unquote. How can he say that when we don't have the tools to find DBPs? The research published in January 2020 by Johns Hopkins University found that most that the water utilities do not have the tools to find disinfection byproducts. Colin Fricker is Petal Delamore's microbiologist. Dirk here asked Dr. Fricker if chlorine would have made any difference to Havelock North in 2016. Basically, Colin Fricker's answer was no. Petal Delamore say that you need backflow preventers according to this big chart. But Dr. Fricker told us on the 9th of July that, quote, if you have a cross connection, the residual chlorine in the pipe network will do little to protect from contamination. If you have any questions, you can ask Dirk about that. We definitely need a new water safety plan so that Napier can qualify for exemption from permanent chlorination if and when the government brings it in. But we're not sure you're going to get that from Petal Delamore. We came away from that meeting with more questions than answers. Until last year, the council appeared to be on the right track. But this program is going to derail you. You will end up pleasing no one. The council has allocated $240,000 for consultants to develop a chlorine-free system for Napier, similar to the study which was done for Christchurch City Council 2 years ago by GHD. The financial uncertainty facing our community as a result of COVID-19 makes it imperative that you do not waste our money. This is your chance to rethink how to best provide chlorine-free water for Napier. Thank you. Have you any questions?
Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you, Pauline and co. I was really interested in your submission, and in particular, I think you raised it today. You said in your meeting with the Petal Delamore consultants, they prepared that list that you held up there, and that you were concerned that there isn't a unique Napier solution to chlorine free on there. I wonder if you wouldn't mind expanding on what a unique Napier solution would look like.
Definitely, it doesn't involve drilling deeper, drilling for bores that don't have manganese in them. Dirk, would you like to respond to that question? It's a technical question. For me, it's simply
Yes.
getting rid of the chlorine.
Of the 4 options, only one is looking at.
Oh, sorry.
Use the mic.
That's all right. Can you hear me?
Right up close
Move
to
over.
it.
Move the chair.
Is it running or?
Yep.
Cool. So in the options provided, there's only out of the 4 that's been chosen, only one is looking at chlorine-free options. Of that option, they've already detailed the outcome of the option before they've completed the investigation, and it doesn't look to me like they are intending to do a full investigation on the water, and the conclusion as being a high cost is something that shouldn't come out from a document that's outlining the what would we call it? Sorry?
The options.
Options, yeah, sorry. Just a bit nervous. So with the disinfection byproducts, it should be included in here. One of the questions that we asked of the Paddle Dallimore was the responsibility. Where does the responsibility end? And our water is biologically stable. It won't form disinfection byproducts by the time it gets to the Toby, but the responsibility for council is public health. And the consumption of high chlorine in water produces disinfection byproducts. And the literature is really clear about that. The application of chlorine to the water has no significant benefit in a biostable water. So we have to really understand what that means. A biostable water will not support microbial growth, and chlorination within a network is there to protect the network from biological growth in the network, and that's a result of having organics in the water. We don't have organics.
I've got the answer. This is our current water safety plan. Christchurch City Council has drafted a brand new water safety plan based on the information they got from this report from GHD. And that draft water safety plan has now gone to international experts for peer review. And I would say to you, as a layperson, we need to get hold of the draft that Christchurch has once all the notes have been done on it by these experts. Does that answer your question?
Possibly. Would you mind if I just supplementary? I think the answer to my question could be summed up by a yes or a no to this. Do you think there are other options for a chlorine-free network for Napier that are not represented on that table?
Yeah, definitely. This table just tells us all about chlorination and doing a whole lot of other unnecessary work, which is very expensive. I can't
Just
understand
a question
it.
from myself with regards to the review that's currently being undertaken by Paddle Dallimore, and I'm conscious that we're out of time. So, do you think Paddle Dallimore are talking to all the appropriate and knowledgeable people here in Napier that they could be to help inform the options analysis?
When we met with them on the 9th of July, I handed to them the names and phone numbers and contact details for Russell Bayliss and for the previous water manager for Napier City Council, who was restructured out of his job in 2016. When I said you might want to talk to Russell Bayliss, they've been drilling for water for 75 years. Tony Urquhart was very dismissive and said, so they've been digging holes for 75 years. There was no interest at all. And Hilary Luff, she's been working as a consultant with Hawke's Bay Regional Council since 2012, off and on. She's from Christchurch, and she's getting all her knowledge from them. Well, they're into computer modelling for groundwater and stuff, and there are severe limitations of relying on modelling.
I will give a quick opportunity for councillors to ask any other questions they may have. Councillor Crystal.
Is it fair to say our aquifer is quite unique, and Napier has a unique system that doesn't fit into the boxes we're trying to be put into?
Definitely. Napier is more unique than Christchurch. Only part of Christchurch has artesian groundwater, and that's the case for 30% of their network, which is now chlorine-free. They did that as they upgraded their bores before the government introduced new hoops to jump through. Does that answer your question?
I can outline a bit further. Napier bores are deep aquifers, or will become deep aquifers, and the water source being biologically stable, no organics, temperature and pH of the water makes it particularly safe and not able to support infections. So the fact that it doesn't support infections also means that we don't need chlorination.
We just need really well-trained staff who keep their eye on the job, and when the weather's, etc., blah, blah.
And what about the effect of leakage into the system?
Well, that was raised by Dr. Fricker, and he talked about 22% leakage, and I know that that is based on modelling, computer modelling, and that modelling the Napier City Council staff use comes from Water New Zealand, who's been promoting chlorination. And Kath Bailey confirmed that, yes, it was just an estimate. They have no idea what the leakage is. And actually, in the handout I've given you, I've talked about, are you looking for assessing leakage in or leakage out?
We will have to draw to a close.
Can I just
Sorry,
add,
Pauline.
add to that? If there's a leakage into the network,
Yeah.
then chlorination will have next to no impact, if not no impact, on disinfection. As it was in Havelock North, that if it had been chlorinated, there would have been no reasonable reduction in infections.
And Dr. Fricker confirmed that on the 9th. Yeah, I talk about this is fine, the acoustic sensor program you've got. This is fine if you want to prevent water seeping out of the network. But if you want to know whether potentially contaminated water can get into the mains, Council will need to invest in pressure transducers to check whether the pressure in the pipes is so low that that could actually happen. Then you'll know whether or not you need to actually spend money replacing pipes and fixing joints. But I can't see that that's a prerequisite for going chlorine-free.
Okay, I will draw it to a close now. Thank you, Pauline, Dirk and Esperanza, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next I would welcome Angie Denby from the Ahuriri Estuary Protection Society, please. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Angie Denby from the Ahuriri Estuary Protection Society, which has been existing since 1981, when it was brought together to try to stop development of a marina in the estuary. With me today is Lynn Anderson, who's another committee member. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to our concerns. In our submission, we covered the consultation process for this annual plan just briefly at the beginning. Our concerns about the funding delays for water quality projects regarding the Estuary Master Plan, the resourcing of the Environmental Solutions team, and we touched on collaboration between all the various government departments that are focused on the estuary. So, number one, in the prevailing circumstances, we do understand why the consultation required an online process. At the time we were in the thick of COVID. Just a bit of feedback on the live stream half-hour sessions. For myself, it was quite an unsatisfying experience. Questions that were asked were often cut short because there was not enough time to answer a question with any depth, and the next topic was needed to be moved on to. But thank you for making something possible. So we do request a return to the face-to-face consultation in the future, if that's possible. So the second point, and that's more to do with our organisation and our interest in the estuary, is the funding delays, the funding that's been put on hold because of COVID and other costs that have come up. So we'd just like to comment on that. The particular projects you plan to delay are improvements in the outfalls into the estuary, the Pandora Thames Tyne Waterways Stormwater Quality Systems project, and the Bayview Pump Station. So we understand why the delay is happening. But we have concerns that delaying funding will slow the impetus for improving the water quality in the estuary. Regarding the Bayview pump, we hear conflicting ideas of why the salinity at the top of the estuary has increased. And this is from people we talk to who are interested in this. And there's a comment that it was noticeable at the last change in the pumping regime that the water became much saltier up the top. And we do know that the invasive tube worm up there, which likes the salty conditions, is causing a lot of problems. It thrives in that salty condition. So it seems important that this situation is reviewed as soon as possible. Number three, the work of the Environment Solutions team. In terms of their work with the estuary, it's covering working with industries to deal with their waste, educating the public on stormwater, and gathering data by monitoring waterways to get the information they need for the next steps in cleaning up the estuary. So we'd be disappointed to see their funding reduced in any way. And the fourth point was collaboration. So the looking after the estuary and its environments, it's complicated. The City Council, the Regional Council, DOC, Railways, there's a lot of people involved, and it just seems difficult for them all to work together for the benefit of the estuary. So we'd like to see a concerted effort to combine forces and resources for all the estuary work. So, in summary, healthy wetlands and estuaries help protect people and wildlife from the impacts of climate change. They act as coastal buffers, shielding lowlands from storm surges. They reduce floods and relieve droughts, as well as absorbing and storing carbon. They are important places. So we would like reassurance these funding delays are temporary and that the current good work by the Environment Solutions team continue with the same impetus towards real solutions for the health of Ahuriri Estuary. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Angie. Do we have any questions? Councillor McGrath.
Yeah, just through the chair. Over the years of presenting to council, do you think you're starting to get better buy-in from council than you have in the past?
Short answer, yes. No, I don't believe it's council buying into our ideas. I think the ideas are coming from central government, and they're becoming rules and regulations, and the councils are needing to respond to that. Luckily, they're going the way that we hope.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any further questions? No? Thank you, Angie and Lynn.
Thanks.
I would now invite Carl Jager.
Jaeger.
Jager?
Jaeger.
Thank you. I knew I'd get it wrong.
Jaeger like the monster.
Yeah, you sound like you're used to correcting people.
Regularly.
So it's going to be nice and simple after the last two that have had a little bit of more technical stuff. First off, just with the library's move back to the old building, which I believe is now confirmed, I'm just wondering, one of the things I've really enjoyed about the current space where it is the little sort of private cubbyhole areas that you can sort of go away and have sort of a little bit of quiet time, as it were. And I'm wondering if, alongside maybe that, if council's looking at a bit more modernisation of the library when it goes back into that space, because it's something I think I'd miss from that current space. Secondly, and I'm sure you guys are well and truly sick of hearing about the water thing, but I did hear mention, and I don't know if it was just a rumour or whatever, that there was some talk of rebates to ratepayers in regards to filtration systems on the properties, given that it's probably going to be a long time before the water issue is fixed. So I'm wondering if anything, obviously COVID's put a dent in the financials for the council, but I'm wondering if that's still on the table or being considered in any way, shape or form. I noticed that cameras were discussed in upgrading the system around town, and I'm wondering if that could be looked at being extended into the suburbs. I know that in my area we have periods where once or twice even a week we'll be seeing domestic incidents in or around alleyways and such like in our suburb, which are quite concerning, and by the time police get to them, the people are often gone, and cameras would obviously allow better identification of that. So that would be, and obviously with the Napier-wide issue of speeding and drifting drivers, it could potentially alleviate some of that problem as well, and minimise risk to the public of them trying to identify those people. And my last one, and I noticed that the Youth Council sort of picked up on this as well, was around the recycling side of things. I noticed that, and I think it's fantastic that we're moving to wheelie bins for our rubbish with the reduction of plastic that's going to hopefully cause. However, I noticed that one of the things that was mentioned was that council said that it was the potential stress for heavy bags on workers and the minimisation of rubbish around the street, whether it's animals getting into bags or however that happens. And I'm wondering why this wasn't considered with the recycling bins that we're currently using, given that as soon as there's a bit of wind, you pretty much see everyone's paper, cardboard and plastic all up and down the streets. And obviously the recycling guys themselves don't actually go and pick that up. If it's not in the bin, they don't touch it. And it just sort of feels that that's kind of contradictory to what council's saying about these new general waste bins. Any questions?
No questions, councillors? No. Thank you very much, Carl.
No worries.
Oh, do suck deep. Welcome. And Roswina, welcome.
Tina kato, tina kato, tina kato katua. Sat Shri Akal. Good afternoon. I'm Sukhdeep Singh, President of Multicultural Association Hawke's Bay. I have Rizwan Latif from Office of Ethnic Communities with me today. I'm 100% sure all of you must know about the MCA, the work we have been doing for the last 12 years. Our vision is connecting and celebrating the diverse cultures in Hawke's Bay with unity and respect. MCA is the umbrella organization for Hawke's Bay ethnic communities. We organize and participate in many events and programs to promote the interest and participation of ethnic communities in Hawke's Bay. Today, I'm here on behalf of MCA and many ethnic communities in Hawke's Bay to talk to you about our submission. We would submit that to fulfill the stated community outcome of vibrant, innovative city for everyone and a safe and healthy city supports community well-being. A more focused and structured approach is needed in multicultural area. The 2018 census shows that approximately 11% of Napier population, approximately 7,000 are of Asian or Pacific origin, with 10,269 people living in Napier City born overseas. These numbers are significant, and these citizens make a considerable contribution to our society. Their impact on the vibrancy, economy, health, education, and many other sectors is immense. And we are also very aware of the volunteer contribution they make. We recognize the work Napier City Council does through the support of Settlement Forum, the diversity event, your support and kind attendance, supporting different community events. But we request that Council go further to develop a multicultural strategy to support the diverse community in Napier City. Attached that Hastings District Council multicultural strategy, and my apologies was last minute. I called 10 minutes ago to Maxine Borg. Hey, look, I forgot to submit the submission. She said, oh, you still have 10 minutes, so do it now. As a starting point to discuss the importance of having a migrant voice to an inclusive society. A strategy can help to break culture barriers, reduce racism, strengthen our community, and give migrants a voice in the council decision-making process. The strategy could help make Napier City more welcoming and inclusive. It will attract not only skilled migrants, but also businesses to support the economy. We believe that council has a crucial role in creating a strong, inclusive, equitable Napier City. It will help it understand response to the needs of ethnic communities in Hawke's Bay, especially Napier City Council in that area, to address any outstanding issues of access, equity, and participation. After the Christchurch shooting, our community started asking questions, especially from me as a president and the previous president, Rizwan Latif here. Start asking questions what the local governments are doing, what they have done, and this strategy, I'm pretty sure this strategy will contribute to addressing those issues. Councillor Maxine Borg, she has been involved with MCA for many years and understand the value we add to the migrant community in Hawke's Bay. Hastings District Council has understood the importance and helped with the development, and we would appreciate working with the Napier City Council to develop your very own multicultural strategy. We realize that this initiative will require a lot of work and will not happen overnight. MCA will commit to working with the Napier City Council to develop their proposed multicultural strategy. And we are here to help. That's our job, to make sure we can help our migrant community in Hawke's Bay. So thank you all for listening me, and I appreciate your time. I'm here to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sakdeep. Are there any questions? Councillor Tapani.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Ngā mihi nui ki a kōrua. Thank you for your submission to our council. So I'm just wondering, I noticed that in your document, in the strategy released by Hastings, it referred to a multicultural working group. Do we have an equivalent body here in Napier to help kick off that type of mahi, or?
We do, and we can able to create that. It's depend, because with the Hastings District Council, we brought people from the different parts, like from the our different ethnic communities, like community leaders. But in this space, we can't do it. We have access to those people. They will jump on board with us straight away if we have an option. Yeah.
And we had EV representation as
Yes.
well. So we did seek consultation from EV as well with the document.
Yeah.
And so
And-
just
yeah.
supplementary?
And I had a chat, had a meeting a day before yesterday, and I'm going to talk to the EVA as well, and they will be happy to jump on board. They have been very interested with that strategy. So we are lucky. We are very lucky and in a really good position.
And so just for clarity's sake, when you mentioned earlier around the association's willingness to support and collaborate with Napier City, that's a part of your support and collaboration around bringing those stakeholders together
Yes.
for a
We're
potential
happy to
project?
Do, yeah, we're happy to do. We will work with you, with the Napier City Council, and bring those people on board.
Thank you very much.
Can I just add something? So last year we had a Noho Marae in Hastings, and it was the first time that our multicultural group was accepted onto Waikato Marae, and that was part of building up that strategy as well.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you for that. Looking at the Hastings strategy, the priority actions, I love the goals that are involved. And I was wondering, they're all in a nice positive spin. I was wondering if there is a major difference between, I suppose, the issues that are faced in Hastings and what we're trying to achieve. Like, would these goals transfer over quite well?
Yes, they will, and we will work with you guys, because Hastings and Napier is too different. With the Hastings and Napier, I really want to work, because it took 18 months with the Hastings District Council and consultation, or try to identify the goals which are more relevant to Hastings. And definitely those will be relevant. Definitely, if we identify any other goals, we will definitely include in that strategy as well. It's just about consultation and try to understand from our Napier City Council, that area, people who live here, what they would like to get out of that, what outcomes they want to achieve. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with the Hastings strategy, we used the Christchurch strategy as a base, but adapted it to Hastings. There's no reason why we can't do that with Napier. You know, it will be easily adaptable. And just to add on to what Sukdeep said, we are quite in a very unique situation. You know, takeaway last night, but we are in the process of building back. And how do we build back a better but more inclusive society where diversity is valued?
And Rizwan Latif, she's from Office of Ethnic Communities, so she works with us when she got that role. And I think a part of her role is working with the MCA as well, to be a voice for the migrants.
Are there any further questions? No? Thank you, Sakdeep and Rizwana.
Thank you.
Our next submission is from Johan Ellers, representing Kennedy Road LLC. Thank you. Welcome, Johan.
Afternoon. The submission is about financial contributions in the Te Awa development area. It's really simple in that all it says is that the development and financial contributions that councils charge to raise money to pay for infrastructure to service new developments must equal the cost of that infrastructure. So don't charge more and don't charge less. That's what it boils down to. So to facilitate the development, councils often act as bankers to provide bulk infrastructure that is needed for development. In the case of the Te Awa development area, Napier City Council decided to provide local off-site infrastructure to the value of $32.9 million inside the Te Awa development area. So that is infrastructure inside the development area that's not on the development sites, but inside that area itself to service those sites. So things like pipelines and open drains and pump stations. Napier City Council also agreed to provide citywide non-local off-site infrastructure, as it does for almost all other developments. So those are things like reservoirs and treatment plants and things like that. So that's outside the Te Awa area. Now, to pay for the $32 million or $32.9 million of local off-site infrastructure, Napier City Council introduced a $478,000 per hectare area charge and a $3,100 per meter road frontage charge. These charges were meant to raise most of the $32.9 million that was needed for local off-site infrastructure. The other funding source for the $32.9 million was a $9,027 per lot plus indexation charge that was paid by Kenny Road North LLC for its 255 lot development north of Kenny Road. Now, council collected about $2.3 million in this way, or a bit more than that. The $9,027 per lot was meant to pay the 255 lot development's portion of the cost for the Serpentine Stormwater Basin, the proposed Te Awa Stormwater Pump Station, and pumping mains and discharge onto the beach. So this was the situation following the 2015 long-term plan, and it was all perfectly legal to charge those amounts because councils can charge for the infrastructure costs they will incur as a result of development. And this was all contained in the 2015 LTP and in the 2015 development contribution and financial contribution policy, as required by Section 106 of the 2002 Local Government Act. But in 2018, things changed. So in 2018, during the LTP round, Napier City Council removed the off-site local projects from its long-term capital plan, so the $32.9 million, and also removed the explanation for the reason that those projects are needed from the DC and FC policy. So after the 2018 long-term plan round, Napier City Council's plans and policy showed no intent to build off-site local infrastructure in Te Awa, but at the same time, Napier City Council made $500,000 available to review infrastructure requirements in Te Awa. So it looked like there was a rethink launched of what needed to happen in Te Awa to service Te Awa. But despite the projects having been removed from the plans, no change was made to the levels of the area and frontage charges. So the 478,000 per hectare area charge and the $3,100 per metre road frontage charge stayed. And this was despite the council's plans at that point not showing a need for the money that would be raised from those charges. But review was underway, so it was just a matter of waiting and seeing what would happen. So in the 2020 annual plan, Council is now proposing to introduce provision for $2.3 million capital expenditure in the Te Awa development area funded from financial contributions. But the 2020 annual plan contains no proposal to update the DCFC policy, so there's no explanation on why this money is needed or what's going to be done with it, as is required by Section 106 of the LGA. So basically what we're looking at the moment is that $32.9 million of projects have been replaced with new projects totaling $2.3 million. So it looks like the hectare and frontage charges must be significantly reduced. And it also looks like most of the more than $2.3 million paid by Kenny Road North LLC must be refunded. So in the absence of an explanation in the DCFC policy, which is where we are now, it is questionable whether council can actually require the area and the frontage charges to be paid at all. I also need to refer to the financial contributions chapter in the City of Napier District Plan, and Table 1 of Chapter 65 of the District Plan shows the hectare and frontage charges are local off-site financial contributions for the Te Awa development area. The $902.07 per lot paid by Kenny Road North LLC was for the portion of the Serpentine Pond, the Awa Stormwater Pump Station, pumping mains and beach discharge that would be used by the 255 lot development. And since Council's FCDC policy and long-term capital plan does not show that this work will proceed, it appears that a significant refund is due because Council has no need for the money. And it would be appreciated if Council could release information as requested in points 13 and 14 of the submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Johan. So just a question from myself. If the updated structure plan doesn't include the infrastructure projects that you've outlined that Kenny Road LLC paid financial contributions for, have you done any calculations around what you would expect the refund to be back to Kenny Road?
Yes, the council has put some money into the development of the Serpentine Pond. So if that is where the expenditure stopped, then the refund would be in the order of $2 million.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you, Johan. You'll excuse this question because this isn't my area of expertise, but if financial contributions are taken for a project that is listed and then council, at the time those financial contributions are taken, and then council changes what that can be used for, are we able to do that is my first question. And then my second question is, can off-site financial contributions be used to, as an example, expand capacity in existing infrastructure?
Right. First, on the first point, council's perfectly entitled to change his mind, but that principle that the developer should only pay for the cost of infrastructure that is needed to meet the demand that is created by the developments. That is the basic principle.
Yep.
And what council must do is to explain in its FCDC policy how that all works. And your second question was about expanding capacity, and yes, the contributions can be used for that. Just on these specific contributions, the area charges and the frontage charges are specifically for the Te Awa area. So it can't be used elsewhere in the city, only in Te Awa.
Or servicing Te Awa?
For servicing Te Awa, yeah.
Thank you, I understand.
But just on that point about servicing Te Awa, there are also non-local off-site contributions, and those contributions have been paid, and that is to provide services outside of Te Awa.
Okay. Are there any further questions, councillors? Thank you very much, Johan.
Thank you.
We did have a gap in the submitters now, but if Susan Chappell was here from the National Council of Women, we could. Excellent. Hi, Susan. Oh, okay. There's only 2 more submitters left. Can you hold on?
Don't give yourself.
Kirsten, I'm a member of NCW.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Susan Chappell and I'm President of the Hawke's Bay branch of the National Council of Women. I would like to thank you for this opportunity to speak, and I'm speaking here today with the support of the Hiratonga Women's Centre and Historic Places Hawke's Bay concerning the future of the memorial rooms in Memorial Square, Napier. In 2018, we presented a written and oral submission to your long-term plan on this issue. We feel as you are looking at the long-term home for the Napier Library in your annual plan, we should reacquaint you with this wonderful building, which I believe is being used presently for the storage of library books. Since speaking to you in 2018, we were asked by Heritage New Zealand to do a submission to support their proposal to have the Napier Women's Rest listed on the New Zealand Heritage List. On the 22nd of April 2020, we were informed that it had been decided, and I quote, that the Women's Rest has sufficient significance to be entered on the list as a Category 1 historic building. This report noted that the Women's Rest is notable not only for its architectural and aesthetic value, but its historical significance, being highly unusual to have a World War I memorial designed to benefit women. They also noted that it is a key element within the twin squares of Memorial and Clive Square, which include other civic memorials. The report is worth reading in that it is a social history of the connection this building has to women and how that need has changed over the years. The Napier City Council recognised that in 1993 when they substantially renovated the building to commemorate the centennial of women's suffrage. Its name was changed to the Memorial Square Community Rooms to acknowledge the broad use of the facility by community organisations. I asked the manager of the Hiratonga Women's Centre to write a letter of support for this submission. Their services are run out of the old Women's Rest building in Hastings. As she says in her letter, and I quote, "Our service delivery holds true to the initial purpose and philosophy behind the building of the Women's Rest nearly 100 years ago." This is a good example of how an old, unused building, as the Hastings Women's Rest was, could be brought back to life. One thing we learnt during lockdown was how important strong communities are. This could be reflected in the many uses this building could be used for. For example, the need for affordable meeting rooms in central Napier for community groups to use. In her letter of support, the manager of the Hiratonga Women's Centre invites you to go and visit their facility and what they offer. I was reading their program for the next few months, and they offer a service to help women get back to work by helping them update their CVs, assist with application process and interview skills. It would be great to be able to offer a service like this in Napier to support post-COVID-19 recovery. Stats New Zealand reported for the end of the June quarter, there were 11,000 fewer people in work. 10,000 of those were women. In summary, it has been said to me that this building should not be used for the storage of written words, but should be used for the sounds of oral words. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Councillor Crystal. I really enjoyed reading your submission, thank you. As someone that enjoys Napier heritage, I learned a lot, even though I thought I knew a bit. It was really, really interesting to hear the history. And my question kind of is, how do you see this? Who's going to run it and sort of coordinate what goes on there? What's your vision?
Well, we fully understand that there's a lot of work before this building can get used. I understand there's earthquake strengthening issues. My vision would be a building for the community of Napier to use, but I would love to see something like the Hiratonga Women's Centre here in Napier, which would reflect the history of the building, having been built for the use of women. Of course, back in the day when it was built because they didn't think women would want to go into a building that was designed for bodily functions, so they made it look like a house rather than a public toilet. I'm glad to say we've moved on since those times. But something like the Hiratonga Women's Centre in Napier would be great. And my thought is, why reinvent the wheel? We've got a wonderful women's centre in Hastings. We would just look and see if they would be happy to expand the services to Napier, but under the umbrella of like Ahuriri Women's Centre.
So who runs their centre there? Who coordinates it?
It is a charity. I believe the building is still owned by the Hastings City Council, so they would have responsibility for the building, but the actual Women's Centre is run as a charitable trust.
Okay.
Councillor Tapani.
Kia ora koutou. I've got a tricky question for you. So, and it's only tricky in that your submission is absolutely fantastic and well backed by Hastings comments and the Heritage Society, so New Zealand Heritage Protection. So my question is, you mentioned earlier on that Hastings said that even though their building had gone through different stages in life and activity, that for them, 100 years on, the value of that facility still holds true. So for me, as I sit back and I look at your submission and I understand its history, and I agree it's a unique building that we need to be particularly focused on preserving, I'm wondering, from your perspective, do you see that the needs for this centre are still as strong as they were, if not different, today? So I'm looking for some quantifying information around why it still holds value 100 years later. It's not like women have disappeared off the planet. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking for more information to once again sort of elevate the concept and whether or not there's still a great need to service needs specifically for women within our community.
Well, 100 years on, I would like to say that the needs were exactly the same. But as I said, post-COVID, it has been shown already that women are disadvantaged. So we would love to say there's gender equal New Zealand, but there's not. And I think women do need extra help and support. But saying that, I'm sure we could have a centre that could include men as well.
I
in
think
some way.
Your best answer to that is to go and have a look and see what's actually being done at the Hastings Centre. And I think that it can be backed up, because one of the services that was in that building that I actually used was the Citizens Advice Bureau, and that's something that could fit well back into the centre.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you for your submission. And yes, I know a lot about the work that the Heretaunga Women's Centre do, and it's a great service that they provide for the Hastings people. I was just wondering, do you know about their funding model? Do you know where they get the majority of their funding from?
No, I don't know, but I think, like all charities, they would just have to apply for funding. I know they try not to charge for the services they offer. They are by donation, as much as the woman herself feels she can afford for that service, but I don't know fully their funding model.
Thanks.
Okay, if there's no further questions, thank you very much, Susan. And
Thank you.
we have one final submission for the day. So welcome Harlem Cruise Ahia. Have we got baby? No. So Harlem has recently had a beautiful baby boy, so congratulations. Welcome.
Kia ora tātou. Firstly, my name is Harlem Cruz Atarangi Haya. I'm 21 years old and I'm currently doing the Tuia mentorship program under Mayor Kirsten. Today I'd just like to quickly dedicate this submission to Mini Ratima, who walked her talk into the submission that I submitted to you guys. So my project that I've been working with Kirsten is a vision that I've had for a long time for my community and my people of Hawke's Bay. I'm a kohanga reo teacher, so every day I see the struggles that our people go through, and I've been coming up with a plan on how I can put things in place to help our people move forward and grow in our culture. So the project that I did was a village. It's a village that can cater to all people from all different cultures and cater to them in all aspects. So in a holistic worldview, in a Māori worldview, we don't. So some people that come to kohanga reo, they need a job, but then they don't have whānau to rely on. So it's looking at the spirit, te taha wairua, which is our spiritual, te taha whatumanawa, our emotions, te taha tinana, our physical, and te taha hinengaro, which is our mental well-being. So it's to create a village that, say a person doesn't know their identity, so they come to this village and there would be a kaumātua that knows their whakapapa, and then they would leave whole. But then some people don't know their identity, they don't have a job, they have mental health issues. So this was to create a space where you could come and be whole as a person and get help. So for me, every day I see, I have whāngai, adopted two of my mokopuna from Kohanga Reo, and their parents actually, they need help getting their children back. So I was thinking if we had a village that parents that need to get their children back, there's help there, and then they also need a job, so physical, a building with physical things that could help them. They also need a rehab, so it's like in making a whole village that could cater to all the needs of our people and the struggles that they're going through. Also, this was just to have a say on the Te Pahinga project, which will be in Maraenui. So I wasn't just wanting a village that's just going to cater to just getting them a job, because most of our people that are struggling, they need mental help as well. They need, most of our mums, they do need a job, but then they don't have a license. Then they don't have the support to look after their children when they go to work. So it's kind of looking at all of the things that our people need to move forward and to be sustainable. Every day I see our people needing, they're culturally lost, their identity, they have a problem with identity. So I think if, for the Te Pahinga project, if we looked at in another aspect, so looking at culture and looking at identity, because we all know if you know who you are, you know where you want to go, that really helps in moving forward in life. So it's just to try and change the way of helping our people instead of just focusing on job, focusing on course. It's about focusing on who they are and their goals and dreams, so it's sustainable, not just getting them a job at the apple pickers and then that's it. So that was me. Thank you.
Thank you. So just to clarify, your vision, you're seeing that that is something that could be delivered from Te Pahinga and the community hub that's part of that project. Yeah, great.
So I've been talking to Teresa, and I presented her my project, and she said, I'm wanting to create a space for the people of Maraenui that can come in, like a space to chill out, and then a space for residential, a space to get jobs. And I was thinking, that's awesome if maybe we could just add in some things about our culture. Also, whānau, community help, so making the community give back to the community instead of putting in people that they don't really connect to, and like professionals, I guess, because the answer is within our people, so it's about giving our people the chance to step up to give back to our community.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? No. Thank you very much. Before you disappear, I'll take a photo and then you can pop it on your Facebook page. During your first submission to council. Do you want shall we get all the councillors in?
Yeah. I'm interested, Bruce.
Thank you.
Right, that brings us to a close for the day. So finished a little bit earlier than originally anticipated, and we will adjourn and be back here tomorrow morning for the balance of the submissions. Thank you, everyone.
Is this going to be locked up?
Can we leave